Good morning, ma'am. Today, we, the group members of 20, will be presenting on the topic a study on the perception of people on increasing suicide among youth in India. These are our group members, and these are the topics which we will be covering today. Before moving on to the main topic, let us know why we have taken this topic to study. Is to highlight some major reasons which leads to suicide among youth in India through statistical analysis. The project also makes an attempt to understand the perception of people towards this project, to provide suggestions to improve the condition, and to make the society aware about such problems faced by the youths. The research methodology, there are two types through which we have researched: primary data and the secondary data. Primary survey through Google Forms, and secondary data through internet websites, books, magazines, journals, etc. The sample was collected from 40 respondents, and the sampling technique was convenient sampling method. Let us move on to the introduction. Suicide is an intentional self-harm that results in death. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among children between the ages 15 and 19 and between 14 to 15 years, according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. The greatest predators of suicide are suicidal thoughts and behaviors, which include frequent thoughts about ending one's life, making plans, rehearsing, or preparing for a suicide attempt and attempting suicide. Suicide is a very serious public health problem. However, suicides are preventable with timely, evidence-based, and often low-cost interventions. Let us know the major reasons of suicide among youths. There is no single cause for which a suicide can be directly attributed. Environmental factors, childhood upbringing, and mental illness each play a large role. Sociologists today consider external circumstances such as a traumatic event as a trigger instead of an actual independent cause. Suicides are more likely to occur during periods of socio-economic, family, and individual crisis. Under individual, the first one is previous suicide attempts. When a person has tried to kill himself in the past, may also not hesitate to do it once again. Mental illness such as depression, social isolation, when a person does not want to connect with people and friends and stay inside their homes, that can also cause suicide. Criminal problems where you are caught up in some theft or some criminal issues and there's no other reason. Some people are scared that what will my parents think about this, and the only reason and the only thing that is left to do is kill themselves. That is what they think. Financial problems, where you are in debt and you have to return the money back to that person. And impulsive or aggressive tendencies, like a few of us are very angry and aggressive, even at the slightest thing. So that is also a reason of suicide. Legal problems, such as serious illness, where you are when a person is very sick and he cannot see his family going through all those things, financial problems, and seeing him in the sick bed, so they try to kill themselves when they are ill. Substance use disorder, which is which is known as the SUD, is when a person is mentally not stable. It is a type of a disorder where when a person cannot control himself from taking drugs or medications or alcohol. So this was it from my side, passing it on to Samriddhi.
Hello everyone. Now I'll be telling you about some major reasons which are related to relationships, social life and some other causes that can be lead to suicidal thoughts. So in relationships, most of the children faces child abuse, bullying and ragging, and such kind of abusive things affect directly to their mental health. Other reason is studies shows that suicide by one family member increases the risk of suicide among others within the family. Sometimes stressful life events such as a breakup or divorce can trigger emotional distress, which leads to suicidal thoughts. Not only this, but also sexual violence are 10 times more likely to attempt suicide than other people. After this, we'll see some other reasons of suicide which are related to social life. Here, first one is social media. Social media is a platform that gives us facility to share information, ideas, creation, and forms of expression. But sometimes the social media used among the teenagers is linked to low self-esteem, poor body image, and and risk-taking behavior. Moreover, social comparison and cyberbullying have been associated with depression and suicide among the youth. Second reason is competition. In this generation, we all have faced competition wherever we go, and we all have faced failure. But some people choose wrong path and end their lives without facing their failure. And the last one is reputation. Some people think that reputation is most important than their life, and this kind of thinking leads to the step of suicide. Now let's take a look at some other causes. First one is death of deer. Changes that involve loss as such a death of loved one can put a child at higher risk. In addition, drugs and alcohol abuse can bring on a substance induced psychotic episode or a break from reality that include hallucinations and delusions, which may then lead to suicide. So here we have three major reasons of the suicide. Now in next slide, we will learn some major information about the suicide among the youth in India. So as per the data of government, an average 31 children died by suicide every day in India in 2020. According to the World Health Organization, in India, suicide is emerging and serious public health issue. In 2020, COVID-19 pandemic has accentuated the psychological trauma faced by children to a great extent. Also, suicide rate in India have been rising over the past few decades. According to the National Crime Records Bureau data, 11,396 children died by suicide in 2020, and 18% rise from 9,630 such deaths in 2019, and 20% rise from 9,430 in 2018. There are some major reasons behind their suicides, like 4,006 people died because of family problems, 1,337 died by love affairs, and 1,327 died by mental illness. And apart from it, there are some more reasons of suicide, like unemployment, impotency, or infertility, drug abuse, and addiction, etc. That's all I wanted to talk about. Now, I would like to pass it on to Siddhi, thank you.
Thank you, Samriddhi. Then during pandemic, the period of lockdown, it is observed that suicidal tendency among school children has rose significantly. It is highlighted in the Indian Journal of Psychological Medicine to Physiological Medicine 2021 that a student was died by suicide in every 1 hour. One survey was conducted in the year 2020 between 24 March to 3rd May. In the survey, it is reported that 157 students has died by suicide, and the main reason of this suicide were fear of COVID, lockdown, and also because of quarantine period. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Akhila Nair and today I'm going to tell you some of the most common myths and facts that people have about suicide. So talking about the very first myth is that if a person attempts suicide and survives, they will never make a further attempt. But it's untrue. it's likely that the level of danger will increase each further suicide attempt. The second myth is that young people who talk about suicide will never attempt or die by suicide. Talking about suicide can be a plea for help, and it can be a late sign in the progression towards a suicide attempt. Those who are most at risk will show other signs apart from talking about suicide. If you are concerned about your friends who talks about suicide, encourage him or her to speak more. Ask if the person is thinking about making a suicide attempt. Ask if the person has a plan, etc. The third myth is that once a person is intent on suicide, there is no way of stopping it. It is also untrue. A suicide is proven preventable. People can be helped. Immediate proper help, such as staying with the person, encouraging them to talk, and helping them build plan for the future, can avert the intention to attempt suicide or die by suicide. Such immediate help is valuable at time of crisis, but appropriate counseling will be required. The last myth, one of the last myths are the only effective intervention for suicide comes from professional psychotherapists with extensive experience in the area. No, all people who interact with adolescents in crisis can help them by way of emotional support and encouragement. Psychotherapeutic interventions also rely heavily on the family and friends providing a network of supply. Other than this, we common people do have many other myths about young people in our country who are considering suicide. Some of them are that young people are always depressed. Young people thinking about suicide will forever think about suicide. Young people are always angry when someone intervenes to help them. Young people thinking about suicide are mentally ill or insane. Breakups in relationships occur frequently, so they does not cause any impact on suicide. And young people who talks about suicide or threatens about suicide is attention seekers, etc. It's very important for a person to differentiate between a suicidal myth and a fact in order to help their near ones overcome suicidal thoughts in future. Thank you. Moving on to the next slides. Okay. Now I'm going to explain the analysis and interpretation of the questionnaire we prepared and circulated. So very first question being asked in the questionnaire was, do you know that there is an increasing suicidal rate among the youth of our country? Here 92.5 people responded saying yes, while 7.5% responded saying no. This shows that majority of the people also thinks that there is a rising case of suicidal rates in our country day by day, whereas 7.5% are not aware about it, are not much aware about this. So this shows that many are aware about the current situation of our country and is also concerned about the same. Moving on to the second question. What do you think, what could be the major reasons for increasing suicide among youth of our country? Here, majority of people, that is more than 3/4 of the people feels that the reason for increasing suicidal rates could be depression, followed by 17.5% thinking it's because of competitive world where we live in, 2.5% each thinking this could be because of anxiety and family issues. This throws us a major light on the current scenario where we all live in. In this competitive world, we all consider our life as a battle, and everyone wants to win in this. Everyone wants to consider themselves above and ahead of others. And in this process, they are losing their own lives. They are coming across depression, anxiety, family issues, etc. And everyone in this, some or the other people in this society are facing depression, and this has adversely affected them, causing suicidal thoughts and ultimately ending up giving their lives. Moving on to the next question. The third question was, India cares about the mental health and is also concerned about the mental health awareness or not. Here we got a very ambiguous response and mixed response, where 14 people are agreeing the statement, 14 are disagreeing, and the remaining 12 have a neutral viewpoint. That is, they don't have to say anything about this. However, we can drive to a conclusion that many people in the society still thinks that there should be more awareness initiated by the government or the people, and India really needs to go far ahead in terms of awareness about mental health issues and suicidal health issues, etc. throwing us a suggestion to give that there should be more awareness provided by the government and other people too, etc. Thank you. Passing it over to Siddhi.
Thank you, Akhila. So the next question is to know whether people are aware about the suicide's preventable disease or not. So as per the survey, 47.5% of the people know that it is a preventable disease, while 17.5% of people don't know that it is a preventable one, and 35% of people are having neutral viewpoint, which means they are not aware of the same. So this shows that majority of people are aware about the disease and know that it is a preventable. But we can't deny the fact that still small portion of people don't know that it is a preventable one. So the next question tells us about uh, whom a person will first try to convey their feelings if they find any. So here we find that 32% of people convey their feelings to their parents, 47.5% to friends, 5% to siblings, and 15% to no one. This shows that majority of people feel free to convey their feelings firstly to their friends, then to parents and siblings. While it was very surprising to find out that uh, none of them wants to convey their feelings either to a doctor nor a teacher, and there are even some people who don't want to disclose their feelings at all. So this question tells us about how social media has its influence on youth related to societal behavior. Here in total, if we see 40% of people are agreeing the statement, and while 22% of people are denying. However, 37.5% of people are having neutral viewpoint about the same. So this clearly points out that even people in our society who uses the social media most are started thinking that it has an adverse effect on youth's mental balance. Thank you. Passing it over to Samriti.
So here is the question. Is it okay to give up on your life just because you can't deal with your own problems? And we found out that 97.5% of people think that we should never give up on our life just because we can overcome our hardships. But still 2.5% of people think it's okay to give up on your life. And it was not pleasant for us to find out that portion of society have the tendency to give their life just because they are not able to overcome their own problems. Next. Now, moving on next question. Do you know anyone near and dear to you who had committed suicide? And through this survey, we got to know that 70% of people do not know who has committed suicide. People have lost someone near and dear to them to the suicidal death. And it shows that these 30% of people have lost their loved ones because of suicide.
So the ninth question is, according to you, who would be the connection with according to you, what could be the connection with social media and suicide? Here, majority of people think cyberbullying has some role to play between social media and suicide, while 20% think that the reason could be emotional distress or insecurity, while 12.5% people think the reason could be something different which is not related to social media. This shows that people really think that social media has some connection with increasing suicidal rates. Moving on to the next question. Did you know about the suicide helpline cell and lifeline number that's 24/7 available for everyone? On this, we got the responses as 17.5% of people don't believe in its authenticity. 25% of people are aware about helpline numbers, and 57.5% of people are unaware about the helpline numbers. Here we could find that majority of people were unaware of the fact that has been initiated by the government of our country, while some who knew about it doubted in its authenticity. Moving on to the next one, I would like to pass it on to Devin.
Do you believe that there is a proper mechanism or do you believe that there is a proper mechanism or initiative by the government or society to reduce suicidal activities in our society? And through this survey, we got to know that 27.5% of people agree with the statement and 35% of people disagree. But the majority of people has a neutral view about it, and it seems like many people in the society still wants a proper mechanism to be adopted by the government. Next, uh, do you think that government and social media can play a pivotal role in preventing suicide, and how? And here we found out that 52% of people says that government should increase the awareness of suicide as a preventable disease. Also, in other way, 15% says that uh, they can't help in this kind of situation, and 23% of people says that they can facilitate social connection among peers with similar experience of awareness of prevention problems, and remaining 10% says that they can prevent suicide by crisis helpline, education, support, etc. And as per the majority of people believe that government and social media can increase the awareness amongst society as suicide is preventable disease. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Mariappan. The last and final question of our survey was, how will you help someone you know is dealing with suicidal thought or considering going through a suicide? In this survey, we get to know that only 5% they will not help. Other 5% says that they are willing to help, but their parents don't allow them, and remaining 3% says will help, but their society don't allow them to do. And the remaining 87% was suggesting that they should go for physiotherapist and will spend more time with him or her. The next slide. Majority of people are willing to help the person who is suffering, but there are still some people won't help as it is not affecting them. The next slide, demographics. The demo which was made, we thought that mainly the occupation side, like student, unemployed, self-employed, employees full-time, feels more pressure and they tend to thought suicidal thoughts. It means 52.5% were the male and 47.5% were the female below 18. to 18 to 25 and 25 to above were committing to try suicide. Let's move on to the next slide. Warning signs of youth suicide. Um, okay, the next one. It is not always possible to know when someone is thinking about suicide, but some of the possible warning signs include the signs may be talking or writing about death or about feeling trapped with no way out. The next one, feeling hopeless and withdrawing from family, friends, and the community. The third one, increasing drug and alcohol use. Fourth one, doing dangerous, life-threatening things. The last one, significant change in mood. This may be the thoughts which the patient comes to its mind and tries to suicide attempt warnings. The next slide, another warning sign is making plans or efforts towards committing suicide. Says that I want to, the person says that I want to kill myself or I am going to commit suicide. Gives verbal hints such as verbal hints make shows on the person's like I won't be a problem much longer, or if anything happens to me, I want you to know. The next one gives away favorite person's possessions or throws away important belongings. Becomes suddenly cheerful after a period of depression. Let's move on to the next slide. Suicide prevention, which will be continued by the Devan.
Hello, I'm going to talk about suicide prevention. First, maintain meaningful social connection. If you are concerned, one of your friends may be depressed or thinking about suicide, it's vital to talk to them about it. Don't stay silent. You can also learn the warning signs of suicide so that you can help your friend staying safe during an emotional crisis. Second, know the warning signs. The signs of suicide are indicators that a person may be in acute danger and may urgently need help, like talking about wanting to die or to kill oneself, talking about feeling hopeless or having no purpose, talking about feeling trapped or being in unbearable pain, and increasing the use of alcohol or drugs. Next, third, identify whether you or someone else has specific mental health. Effective treatment and care of suicidal persons depends heavily on individuals' level of risk, personal needs, and preference. Approximately 90% of people who die by suicide have a mental disorder at the time of their death. Because of this, professionals widely agree that treating underlying mental disorders and assessing suicide risks are both vital elements in preventing suicide deaths. Fourth, reducing access to lethal means of suicide. A lethal means refers to a method in which one uses to attempt suicide. The term lethal is important because some methods are more harmful or destructive than others. For example, if someone chooses to use a gun to end their life, the act is quick and almost irreversible. Conversely, other methods like overdoses of pills or inhalation of harmful chemicals allow for more time to reconsider or to be safe during an attempt. Fifth, seek help for yourself or someone else. SAFE does not provide emergency or crisis intervention. If you are located in India, call 112 for medical emergency. If you or someone you know is experiencing suicidal thoughts. Thank you.
Let's move on to the conclusion part. Throughout the research on the topic, we discovered that through the number of suicides among youth are on an increasing mode. We also understood that suicide is preventable and suicide assessment should be done continuously during inpatient at the hospital, either at admission or any change in medication or other treatments. If you think a friend or family member is considering suicide, you may be afraid to bring up the subject, but talking openly about suicidal thoughts and feelings can save a life.
Let's look at the suggestions given by each member of the group. Moving to the first one. Assure your friend that with help their suicidal feelings will pass with the time. Encourage your friend to seek help from a health professional.
Youth spend the majority of their day in schools where caring and trained adults are available to help them. So schools need trained mental health staff and clear procedures for identifying and intervening with students at risk for suicidal behavior.
Samruddhi, you're on mute.
Can't hear you, Samruddhi. Okay, there seems some disturbance at her hand. Please, the next person, go ahead.
Family members, especially the elders, who mostly don't know much about mental health or who usually neglect it, more of family time, like speaking about your struggles or how your day was, can reduce anxiety and which in turn may result in the less suicides among the youth. You never know what the person in front of you is going through. Even though they hide their pain behind their smile, we as an individual must be kind to them and notice the little changes in their behavior.
A good relationship will open up communication between the youth and her parents. This can be life-saving safety valve to the depressed and troubled teenagers. Support and early intervention can be effected before the youth contemplate suicide as an option.
We can remove means of suicidal use equipment away to avoid self-harm and can provide easy access to effective medical and mental health resources. If parents are uncomfortable with the following referrals which are made by our members, they can access the support from the side of educational institute psychological permission to contact the referral agency.
You're still not audible.
Let it be. Let's move to the thank you part.
So these are the quotes. Bibliography and thank you. So beyond the topic of presentation, we have sincerely taken efforts to bring out our project this way. It was an immense pleasure for us to work on such a socially relevant topic. Throughout our research, we have acknowledged that today's competitive world, stress, depression, anxiety, etc. are contributing much on increasing rate of suicidal rates among youths, and left with the words that consider this a God gifted life as a blessing. Sorrow may come and go, don't give up but conquer. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, ma'am.